A few years ago, in one of the hardest stretches of my life, I stumbled across an old Chinese parable that quietly changed how I see my own path. It's the story of two seeds planted side by side in the same soil, a fern and a Chinese bamboo. Within weeks, the fern had burst through the earth, its bright green leaves covering the forest floor. But the bamboo, nothing. Year after year, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years. You could water that soil every single day and never see a single shoot. To anyone watching, that seed looked dead while everything around it thrived. Then in year 5, something remarkable happened. In just 6 weeks, the Chinese bamboo shot 80 feet into the air. It hadn't been dormant those 4 years. It had been building a root system underground, strong enough to eventually hold up everything it would become. By the way, if you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing to help us grow. I used to look at my friends, my old classmates, people I followed online, and feel like everyone else had been handed some instruction manual I'd never received, while I was still standing at the starting line, trying to figure out which direction to even face. If you have ever felt that, here's the uncomfortable truth I eventually had to sit with. Feeling behind almost never has anything to do with how far you have actually come. It comes from a sneaky mental trap I've started calling the highlight fallacy, where your brain compares its own raw, unedited footage to everyone else's carefully cut highlight reel. I want to share how that illusion got into my head and the small 1-minute habit that finally helped me put it down. Psychologists call it social comparison theory. Here's how I experience my own life. I see everything: the self-doubt, the messy mornings, the rejections, the 2 a.m. anxiety, the days I could barely get out of bed. That's my raw footage. Anyone else, a colleague on LinkedIn, an old friend on Instagram, I only ever see the final cut. I see the promotion, not the 50 rejections that came before it. I see the win, not the late nights that led there. What I slowly realized was that I'd been comparing my internal struggle to everyone else's external success. I kept overestimating how easy things were for other people and badly underestimating my own progress. I was measuring my year 1 against someone else's year 10. So how did I stop running a race I never actually signed up for? I had to flip what I now think of as my internal metric switch. For a long time, my sense of self-worth was tied to external metrics, the benchmarks everyone else seemed to be using. By this age, I should be earning X. By this age, I should own a house. By this age, I should have it all figured out. Eventually, I saw how arbitrary those timelines really were. They don't account for where you started, what you have had to work through, or the simple fact that everyone grows at their own pace. Flipping that switch meant changing the question I asked myself each day. I stopped asking, how do I compare to them? And I started asking instead, am I growing relative to who I was yesterday? Growth isn't always visible from the outside. Like that bamboo, I've come to believe some seasons of life aren't built for rapid, visible progress. They're built for root building, learning, character, figuring out who you actually are underneath it all. To retrain my brain away from constant comparison, I started a habit that takes under a minute. I call it my 1-minute wins log. Every night before bed, I open a notebook and write down 3 small wins from that day. Nothing to do with status, appearances, or anyone else's approval. Did I handle a hard conversation with a little more patience than usual? That's a win. Did I hold a boundary I used to give up on? That's a win. Did I choose 15 minutes of rest over burning myself out? That's a win. Writing these down each night has slowly retrained my mind. From constantly scanning for where I'm falling short to building real, quiet proof that I'm moving forward on my own terms. If there's one thing I hope you take from this, it's that roots take time. You're not late to your own life, you're just on your own timeline.